My name is Jacinta Wangechi. I am a toxic relationship coach, a published author of I'm a first-time author, also a published author. I don't know if there's a difference. I'm also the founder of Nyariri Scented Candles. And basically, I think that is what I do. Yeah, apart from that, I'm a mom, and I'm a friend, I'm a daughter, I'm many things. Just like any other teenager, I was 19 and I really didn't know much even about relationships. It's just when you've come from school and you find your first love or your first boyfriend. And at first I felt like I was really happy. I was in love, just like every other teenager. And I thought, I really didn't think much about it, but a lot was happening in the background. I had just hit 19. I'm planning to travel to the US back then to do medicine, which by the way was crazy because it was not something that I really liked. But it's the way how parents tell you need to do this course because it's more marketable. What I really wanted to do was actually journalism and air hostessing. But then I end up deciding that I'm going to do nursing. And then, crazy enough, I get pregnant with my very first boyfriend by then. And I normally say I lacked options. I lacked choices, which is even something that I've come to know now. Leads you to this corner where you see that the only decision that you can make is only one, which is so sad because I feel like this is something that we should be told, that there are many other options. It's not only abortion or getting married or maybe moving in with your partner or this guy simply because you're pregnant. Because had I been asked back then, was I ready to move in with this man or actually get married? I don't think I was even ready.
Did you have the support from your parents?
No. Crazily, they never even knew. I packed by then they had allowed these paper bags, the yellow paper bags. I packed my clothes in a paper bag and my mom's handbag, and that's how I moved. Oh. Actually, that's how I got married, in short. Yeah, and I remember the very first night, and that is actually a part of where my story starts in the book. I just found myself that first day sitting on this rooftop of this house where the man used to live and asking myself, is this how I get married? Because I had this fantasy, this fairy tale kind of thinking of how marriages should look like, and this was definitely not how I thought my story would go. So I find myself in this relationship as a married woman. We call them come we stay. There was nothing legal. There was no report to the parents, nothing. Actually, even threw out my SIM card, bought a new one because I knew my dad would basically kill me. It was very tough, very strict. Back then, I didn't think that was even an option. No one knew even where I was. And I decided this is my life from now on. I'm pregnant. I'm going to focus on just getting to a family with this man. And so I started my life. It was hard at first, especially thinking of all the missed chances. I even came to realize that I had even been called to Kenya Medical by then. I had already done they call them TOEFL. I had gotten my passport. I was ready to move to the US. All that is gone. And now, like in overnight, it was like a span of, I realized that I was pregnant on Sunday. On Wednesday, I moved in with this man. So in the span of 3 days, my life changed from moving to the US, being a medical practitioner, to being married and expecting a kid and being a wife now. So just like that, I moved in with this man, and I will say that I don't know if I was naive or I didn't know back then what was happening, or even how do you look at relationships? What do you expect? To me, in my mind was, you move in with someone and you start doing life. And that's what we did. But unfortunately, I don't think I was prepared for what was to happen next. Yeah.
What happened next?
What happened is that I remember shortly before the baby even came. First of all, we were struggling. We were really struggling. I would say we were struggling because we were living in a house of a rent of around 3,000, which was a single room, and it was so bad whereby even there would be times where we could not afford that rent. And later on, I remember there were nights where we'd even lie there, wake up in the middle of the night, trying to think where we're going to get this money from. and I had crazy morning sicknesses. I used to go to work, like immediately when I decided I'm moving in, I looked for a job. When I decided to move in with him, and I got this job as a secretary to an advocate somewhere in town. But when I wake up in the morning to go to work, the minute that I get into the matatu, I will be throwing up all the way to town. I get to town, I'm so weak, I'm tired, and I'm even dizzy. Go to the office, sleep basically most of the day. I don't know where sleep comes from when you're pregnant, and I didn't even know what to expect in pregnancy.
Yeah.
Remember, by then I didn't have any woman around me. My entire family was already out of the picture. He had not also told his parents about me, so it was basically just us.
You were just figuring life out.
Yes, we were
on your
both
own.
figuring it out, remember? And he was also, first of all, he was 4 years older than me, so he was basically still a kid in his early 20s, and I was 19. So here we are trying to figure this thing called life and pregnancy and even marriage now. So it was very rough, and I remember the very first time he actually got so mad at me. He got so mad at me, and I really felt like he was going to hit me. But I thought maybe it was just a misunderstanding. It will go away eventually with time. But the next time it happened, my baby was already born, and I don't know what had happened. I don't even remember what the argument was about, but I remember the baby crying on the floor. She was months old, either 2 or 3 months, and he was beating me up. And in the flat where we were living, I remember we had a neighbor who was living under us, like in the floor below us, and I used to hear her being beaten up all the time. But you know, the way in the society, I don't know if it's just a Kenyan thing or an African thing, but normally we say it's family issues. Nobody goes to interfere. So it happened, and it will become a night of many more to come, until I decided that I could not have it. Thought that would take me almost 10 years to
10
actually,
years.
more than 10 years.
It took you more than 10 years to
Yes.
live. Mom.
By the time now I was starting to feel like this is wrong. I don't think relationships should be like this, because sadly, sometimes we get to learn even how a relationship should look like from other venues or other means, like maybe our parents, and sometimes our parents' relationships are not very healthy. For me, it was also one of those things where my background was very chaotic, and then I landed into another relationship which is very chaotic. And so all I knew was that I had never seen a healthy relationship where a man and a woman can actually sit and have a conversation.
You didn't know what stability in relationship was.
Exactly. This is what I knew for me. So, but then there was a time where I got, I think, 6 years in, because this was now after our second baby came, that I started feeling like, no, this is not the way, this is not how I want my life to be. By then things had changed drastically. We had all these things now. We were able to live comfortably. By then my partner had his own cars, the business. I will support him in the business, but my life basically rotated around home, work, with the business where we were just the two of us. We used to work together, and that was just it. I didn't have a life, and the friends that we had they were just common friends. My friends knew him and all that, but I was starting to see that where I was at was not a very good space, because every time we'd get into arguments or fights, I could not go to work. Remember, he's also in the workplace as well. If I need to go somewhere, he'd either drop me or have somebody else drop me. I was not even allowed to drive. Like, I didn't even know how to drive, and he would always tell me, why do you even need to drive? So my life, I just didn't have a life. And I started thinking, no, at 25, 26, I don't think this is how I want my life to be going. And it felt like I was stagnated. He was moving, but I was just there. What was I known for? For being the wife, for being the woman in his life, and for being, because they have this notion of calling the woman mama and just having kids. And I was like, no. I had so much that I wanted for myself. I had the dreams, and I don't see it going the direction that I wanted my life to take. Despite being a mother and all, I didn't feel like that my life was now doomed to be stuck with him, and especially when I was not happy. But then I was getting panic attacks, anxiety attacks. So a person who was now even leaving me with marks on my body. And I remember there were times when I'd even call the police and they'll be like, what have you done to him? What is going on? And by now, the cases were escalating on the news of women being killed by their spouses. And now I knew I didn't want to be another statistic. And even my family was not getting involved.
Okay.
I remember my late grandma by then, my mom's mom, late mom's mom, was now asking me, are you sure that you're safe? And she would ask me a couple of times. She would basically actually tell me, I feel like this man will one day kill you. But I used to tell her, no, I don't think so. Then every time I would see something on the TV about a woman who had been killed by a partner, I would always feel like this could be me next. Yeah. I had to wake up, decide that if today I was left alone, where do I start? And this is something very common that is even making women stuck in relationships. Financial stability. I had to find a way out, and I had to start doing it even when I was in the relationship. Whereby you usually hear that women leave even before they leave physically. That is very true, because I did exactly that. I decided, first of all, I'm going to start my own business. The very first time I decided on that, it was very scary, but I decided I'm going to start a business of something that I like. And I got into the business venture of doing clothes because I thought I love fashion, so this one will be okay.
It will be easy.
Yeah, this was by then, back in 2019. Hey, nobody would have told me that there's a difference between a passion and a business. Because it got really hard, but then it opened doors for me. I was able to get a life. I was able to get my own friends. I actually looked for my business premises on the opposite side of town because I wanted a new clique. He was able to influence my other friends. He would even be bribing some of my friends to find out information about me. So I knew I wanted to cut out everything that was directly connected to him. So I got a new clique of friends. I just got a life. At least I was able to hang out with other people. I was traveling by then. For me, basically, having a business was not just the money aspect. It was also learning new things. You go out there, travel, maybe even to Kampala, stay there for some days, just learn their culture. And I discovered that this was me. Like slowly by slowly, I was coming back to myself because I really enjoyed. I've always been an adventurous person.
Did it affect your life back at home? All these decisions that you're making?
Of course, these are the ones where you just tell yourself, this is by force, by fire. And especially now where you're gotten to, I got to a point where we had already done marriage counseling, we had separated, we had come back together. So by then, I'm like, the conditions are, I want my life back. I want to know how to drive. I would like to also have my own car. I would also like to have my own business. Like slowly by slowly coming back to yourself. Like you really have to fight for yourself. And even that is another cause of most divorces. Why it's even not advised that you get healing when you're still in relationship is because who you are as a person, if you're not who you are, this person took another image of you. Like they found another. Imagine if they found me just chilled there. They thought that I'm an introvert. I love being at home, that I don't have a social life. And then all of a sudden you're telling them that I want to be going out to have a social life, have friends, I want to travel. That becomes a big issue. And it was an issue that even my parents had to be brought in. But I told them I had to put everyone aside and actually now focus on me, because this is even another thing that happens, not just in toxic relationships, but also in relationship. We as women lose ourselves.
Yeah.
We forget who we are. You forget that despite being a mom, you have to step back and actually look at yourself like, here's me as Jacinta. Who is Jacinta? What do I enjoy doing? Who am I? Sometimes you even think I'm a night owl. But how do you know you're a night owl? Maybe it's because you're always busy taking care of the kids, but you're actually a morning person. Just going back to the basic. And that is what I did for me. I did it. I knew there would be a lot of opposition, not just from my then partner, but also from my family, but I was determined. I told myself, this is not how my story will go. And I remember telling that to myself, even when I was getting married to this guy. I say married in quotes because now I know it was not a marriage.
Legally, you were not married to this
legally
man.
I was not married to him.
Yeah.
And there was even no actual marriage of even the rurashios, as we call them in my culture. But even coming to learn that I could actually be myself at any given stage of my life, that for me was also always something that I really had. I used to fight that. I believe that mostly it was my personality. I always had this personality to really want to be this person. Well, let me tell you, and I normally say this a lot, if you have been shown all the signs that this is not where you're supposed to be, but you continue hanging in there, the way destiny or life or the way you'll be pulled out of that situation will not be a good way. For me, what made me leave, my final straw, was this particular day. 3 kids later, now, after I even had a third kid. Yeah, my third kid had now come. And I remember I kept thinking, I had by then even started doing therapy. And my therapist used to ask me, Jacinta, like we would go through the sessions. This was my 3rd session. And I had even been shown something called a cycle of abuse. And I could be able to say, from day Monday to Wednesday, I'm at this phase. There are 4 phases. From Wednesday to Thursday, I'm at this phase. Thursday to Saturday, Sunday, I'm at this phase. Sunday to this, I can be able to tell. And it was a never-ending cycle. So normally the cycle happens, but you normally go through the cycle when you're in an abusive relationship. It's either you remove yourself from that situation or you just end up staying like that, because it's a cycle. It normally repeats itself. And I could see that. But then I used to just try and give all the reasons as to why, because you know, therapists don't actually tell you you need to do this or you need to do this, but they ask you questions trying to make you trigger, and they trigger your mind so that you think in a certain way. But every single time I would hear a question or something that triggered me to think, why am I still there? I always used to make excuses. My daughter is young. I want my kids to have a stable family. But then they'll be like, is it even doing them any good?
Yeah.
First of all, my kids were very traumatized, my 2 older kids. So by then I would make so many excuses, but I knew deep down they were just excuses. So the last straw for me was waking up, and that night or that early morning, it was around 4 a.m., come home late, and there was an argument, there was a fight, and what actually happened is that he pushed me to the floor. He pushed me, and my kids, my 2 old kids were there. By then my youngest daughter was around 3 or 4 months. He pushed me on the ground, and I fell, I knocked my head, and I blacked out. And when I woke up, I remember my son, my 6-year-old son, my 5-year-old son by then, he was crying. He was saying, Dad, you've killed Mom. My daughter was crying. There was a lot of shouting. My nanny was there holding the baby, was crying. There were neighbors. And I don't know how long that had, like I had blacked out. But I remember waking up, seeing all the chaos, and there he was there, and he was saying, I'm going to kill her.
In front of the kids?
Yes, in front of everyone. He was actually saying, I'm going to kill her. And actually I knew there is no coming back from this. One day he was going to kill me, and who's going to suffer? It's going to be my kids. And I made up my mind, and I decided, and I told myself, it doesn't matter, because most of the time it will be me actually reaching out to him, like, come back home, let's take care of the kids. And I remember telling him, if I ever call you so that we can do our life together again, just know that I'm very crazy. Just send me directly to my dad. And I decided it's enough. Whatever happens from there, I'm going to handle it. And because you're always waiting for the right time, but there's never like a right time. That for me was the right time. Like it took that to wake me up to the reality of what was happening in my life. I couldn't believe that it was some 2 to 3 days to my 30th birthday. That maybe I could pass on even before I blew my 30th birthday candle. And my kids, especially my youngest one, I looked at her and I thought to myself, these older ones have seen so many things, and they don't even choose. There's nowhere where kids sign that I want to be born in this family. They didn't choose us to be their parents. So I have to make this decision for them. And that was the day that I made up my mind. And I decided, you know what, whatever happens, we are going to fix it along the way. It's still a learning process. This is the one thing I can say about that. It's a learning process, and it's also work in progress. There is a lot that comes with that. There is you creating your boundaries. There are things like you dating again. There are things like co-parenting. It's a whole entire dynamic that is really messy. What I have is very strong boundaries, and most of the time what I normally say this, though people debate on it, when a person is not a healthy person or an abusive person, can never be a good parent. And most of the time they will make co-parenting very hard. But when you've done like the healing journey, you know better than to play the same. You know, it's always like a dance. You know that they're throwing hints at you so that they trigger you to react in a certain way. So when you know better, you're prepared. Yeah.
And today you are a published author.
Yes.
Why did you decide to put your story into a book?
Well, the crazy thing is that I felt that by then when I was writing, I was just writing it for my healing purposes. But as I was writing, I thought, you know, when I actually left, I was doing some sort of coaching on how to present myself on the online space, because I was thinking I have my 2 kids, I have this younger one, I still need to be there. I'm now going to be a mom and a dad for them, so I need to know how to present myself in my businesses on the online space. But then when I told my story, they were like, Jacinta, I think you're in the wrong profession. But then it was supposed to be knowing how to market my candles on the online space. I asked, and this was a class full of so many women who are, I think I was the youngest by then. They told me, Jacinta, do you know how strong of a message you have? And as usual, I gave excuses. I'm too young. How can I be able to tell somebody who is 40 or 50s, if they're 50s, that, you know, you need to walk out of your marriage? Will they listen to me? But then they were like, do you know how many people will listen to you when you just share this? Do you know how many people go through the very same thing that you're going through, who are feeling stuck? And as I was talking about it, that is how I stumbled upon coaching and how I ended up now doing what I do. And as I was doing that, and I was also writing the book, it was during now my healing journey. I embarked on my healing journey since then. That was, I think, back in 2022. 2022, 2023, and even now, I'm still, because healing is a journey. So even writing the book was my healing journey, and I thought, you know what if somebody else would just hear on just about my story, like in depth, all this, the way right now I'm telling my story in just 30 minutes or 20 minutes. Now, some people want the details, because it's also a roadmap of how I was able to, because maybe if I was like ambushed and told, you now need to leave this marriage, definitely either you end up going back there or you're stuck there. That's why you keep taking all these things, because you don't even have any idea. By then, at least I had started my candles business. I was already working on with a business coach and all that, so I knew I was somewhere.
You had a plan?
Yes, I had a plan by then. Yeah. For me, told you, I also walked. I came back. I think maybe I did it like once or twice or 3 times. Yeah, before finally I made that decision. But yes, when I was in it, when I decided let me first start with a therapist, I did not know where do you start. Like that's why I became somebody who I was looking for back then, because I really just wanted somebody to tell me, you know what, maybe you can do your finances this way, maybe you need to be like this mentally, maybe you can do this and this is how even healing looks like. Because your mind, first of all, that is where everything happens. That's like the whole engine of your entire journey. When already you've made up your mind, your mindset, which by then had already been started already, I had worked on it with my therapist, but it was not enough. All the other things, I had to work on them and figure them out. What is the biggest challenge in them living this toxic relationship? Normally is finances. Finances is huge. They will tell you one, finances. Then they will talk about children. Most of them have their kids. The third one is what will people say? Because funny enough, most of the women that I work with are in their 40s. 40s, early 40s, late 40s, early 50s. There are even not so many 30s. Actually, you know, meet so many in their 20s and 30s, but 40s and 50s, that's when like the kids have now grown up and they have left homes. That's when now it's hitting them like, who am I? You'll hear a woman tell me, I actually realized that my husband is cheating on me with a lady in her 20s who is the age of our daughter. And he's been doing this before, and I've been staying for my kids. Now they are gone. So what do I do? So now it's when they now start to actualize the thought of, now it's me and me alone. So what do I do? Let me just say that when it's a passion, it becomes something that you do so effortlessly. Like, I think one thing that I have always struggled with was finding my purpose. But when I found it, and especially finding that I can do one thing and do it actually very well, because I love to see the smiles on these women's faces, and I love to see them actually regain their peace of mind. Even tell you simple things like, I'm now able to sleep more soundly, because that's something that we overlook a lot. Just the simple thing of being able to fall asleep soundly, it can look like a very simple thing until you're in that position, because I know I have gone through it. But for me, it actually gives me a sense of purpose, knowing that there are women out there who need my help first of all, and they're actually just ready to receive this message. At the same time, I have many people, both genders, but especially men, who will be against me a lot. Will be telling me, why are you telling our women to go? Where do you want them to go? That's what you're doing is wrong. People should be in relationships forever. Exactly. I get asked that a lot. Tell them, why are you triggered, first of all? It's either maybe you're the abusive one or the toxic one. You wouldn't want your wife or your girlfriend to hear this message. Or what is it about what I say is triggering you the most? Mostly it's not about me, it's about you. Yeah.
And Jacinta, we've seen violence against women skyrocket by the day. It's very saddening, but it's actually happening. What would you advise women out there?
What I tell women is to actually, if you're a woman there, and I wish this was something like, especially relationship would be a subject discussed maybe in churches or even in school, especially when the girls are either in campus or they're looking to leave schools 18, 19, 20 there. If you're a young girl there, I tell you, please, before you get into relationships, I wish you'd do the work on yourself. I wish you'd learn things about you that you're looking for in a man, your values. Because if you're a church-going member and then you end up attracting a guy who is into clubbing, first of all, your values don't align, they're colliding, and then you think that you're going to change this person. Already, I'm not saying that it's all relationship, but most of the time that relationship is doomed to fail right from the beginning. And then after knowing yourself is which parts of you, especially your childhood, address things about you that you feel, because actually you never know how broken you are until you get into a relationship. That's when most things, especially about your childhood, come out to play. Most of the people that we get, it's either you're looking for something. Normally you're looking for something that you're not able to get as a child. Learn things like your attachments
Style.
Attachment style. Learn like your love language, so that you're getting so many women out there who are getting into relationships thinking that money is the most important thing, but actually for them it was maybe a sense of maybe it was time, or it was attention and affection, and you end up just feeling like you're in the wrong relationship. Why? Because you never took the time to know who you really are as a person. So I would advise any young lady out there who is getting ready for a relationship, please know yourself first, because otherwise we are looking for something that we don't even know how it looks like. Also, there are things like different archetypes of men. Nowadays, there's so many different types of men. Like we have the men who are targeting women for money and all that.
Yep.
We have the healthy men. How does even a healthy man look like? The same way we're talking about how a healthy relationship looks like, how does a healthy man looks like? And you yourself, I normally say you attract who you are. You attract who you are and not what you want. You might be very broken, but then you're looking for somebody who is very healthy, very stable. You're not going to get that sort of person.
True.
You get the very same broken as you. And what happens? You even become more broken and more healing. But if we could be able to address this even before we get into these relationships, then at least you come in prepared. Yeah, you're able to see things. A woman who is looking to live right now, how about talking to a coach like myself? If not that, there is so much information. Luckily, there's so much information right now which is very readily available, whether it's through YouTube or books. Just learn. Be open and ready to hear, not just from your own people, because people around you can tell you, can give you advice from the field of their wounds. If maybe it's like your mom, maybe she has stuck it out in that relationship which was not serving her, but she stuck it out. If it's your friend, they're looking at you and thinking you have the perfect life, you have a good you're living in a good home, driving a good car, which was something that I was told a lot. Most of my friends could not understand why.
I mean, what else do you need?
Exactly. But then I normally say, even there is an article I wrote, I'm not a pig. You're not, you're not brought into this world to just be born, eat, and then die. There is more to life than just existing. So how about learning more? You can still learn and unlearn and relearn. Let me say that because I'm Kikuyu. So all these three things, they're really going to become your best friend. And know that healing is a journey, is not a destination. So every single day we learn and we heal. That doesn't mean that you won't be triggered. That doesn't mean that you will not attract somebody who is toxic in your life. But now you're better equipped. So have self-compassion, to forgive yourself. Most women who are in toxic relationships feel like this is the end because I got myself in this. They don't feel like they can be able to remove themselves from here because it's like it's already too late. But forgive yourself. Know that you made that decision and you're not a slave to your past.
Okay.
Every single morning creates a new chance for you to start on a different page. 1 + 1 will always be 2. So if you're doing the very same thing and expecting a different sort of things to unfold differently, but then you're doing the very same thing, then definitely you get the very same answer. So how about deciding today I'm going to do things differently? If yesterday I answered like this and this was how I got the reply, how about today I learned patience? Actually, gratitude list, that for me has become one of my healers and something that makes me have a reason to smile every single evening. First of all, I'm very grateful for just being alive, because like you're saying, there's so many women who have lost their lives along the way. And looking at my life and the way it used to be, there were several instances where I would have lost my life, but I'm here today. And I'm also grateful for my kids. Despite going through all that, I'm very grateful for them because they have made me who I am today. I normally say they ground me. I'm adventurous by nature, but then they ground me. They ground me. I'm also grateful for the experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly. They're what has shaped me to be me. And honestly, I don't think even if I was to go back in time, I would have done things differently. Maybe I would have taken more lessons and I would have wanted to go to school first, studied what I would have wanted to study. But every other thing, it has taught me great, great lessons that I know I would never have learned if I did not go through the experience.
Okay.